Welcome everyone. My name is Vida and this is Sri Lankan Cricket Podcast, a podcast where we discuss current news and developments happening in the cricket world with a special focus on Sri Lanka cricket. This is episode 10 of season 1 and I'm joined by my co-host Sohan. How are you doing, Bora?
Good, Vida. How are you keeping?
I'm good too, Bora. Double waxed and ready to play cricket. Now remember what we discussed when we decided to start this podcast, Bora?
I think I know where things are. You said this is the 10th episode. We're gonna, I think, do 10 episodes and see where things lead. Is that right? Or
Yeah, exactly right. We've done 10 episodes now. What's the plan now? We do 10 more and see how we go? Or
yeah, interesting. I mean, we've caught up for a few discussions about the game we love, but we seem to be able to discuss a different topic because cricket's not stopping. So let's keep going for a while. Let's see where things lead to.
yeah, absolutely. Why not? As I always say, we got a lot to talk about, and today we'll talk mostly about T20 World Cup, which is coming up next. IPL's done and dusted, and it's amazing how the cricket move on quickly these days. Everything's cramped up. So just after the IPL, we are moving into a World Cup.
Yeah, lots to cover with that. Before we get into the juicy topics of, the wins of the IPL and the T20 World Cup, we had a good chat with Russ about fitness in the game in our last episode, how it has a massive impact in the game. To put things into perspective to our listeners out there, the game's intensity has risen as a result of the T20 game being introduced, as well as different changes in the rules in 50-over cricket. Means that the games played at high intensity. So you need to we hear about the topic match fit, being able to play the game to the required pace. But I think now the measurements are against how much area or meters they're covering against the time per minute. So high intensity player is, he might moves really fast, hitting sixes and covering a lot of ground. So that's the importance of the game. And I think Russ touched base about it really well with her.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, looking at the comments and the feedback we received, everybody loved it. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to interview episode with Russell Jarrett. You will love that because he has been in this industry for 30 years and you can take a lot out of that episode. We'll start with IPL, isn't it, Bora?
Yeah, we saw it just finished up on Saturday. We talked about Chennai being the dominant team, or, the kings of the T20 at the moment. They seem to be always in a final or always thereabout. And just it was one-sided game. They just took it across.
So this is their fourth title, Dhoni's fourth title as well. They've been in the finals for 10 times. That was a good display of dominant cricket by an experienced side. I mean, they had this set of players for almost 10 years. And as we discussed in our earlier episode, they don't really change their playing 11s much, and they depend on their key players to play a part. I mean, play winning inning or spell with their batting or bowling. I have to mention Dwayne Bravo. This is his 16th T20 title, Bora. He has overtaken his countryman Kiran Pollard, who has 15 titles. So this shows that how dominant these West Indies T20 cricketers are playing all around the world. And talk about batting partnerships, Gaikwad and Faf, they top the batting list. What else do you want? Your two openers topping the batting most runs chart. That shows how dominant they were.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well. Their top order fired throughout, and the hallmark of Chennai Super Kings wins in finals cricket. I mean, I just had a look into the past wins they've had. They've always had that opener scoring the big runs in the final. So 2011, Murali Vijay scored a 95 in the finals. 2018, Shane Watson chasing the target, scored 117. Yeah, and now Faf in the most recent game batting through, 86. Dhoni touched base in the press conference about how they've lost. I mean, you said they've been part of 10 finals, they've won 4. So they've been on the other side of the coin as well. And he said, look, we want to get ahead of the game and keep that gap through. That's, I mean, the best way to do is with the top order firing. So the plan seemed to work, and it's lovely to see. We saw DJ Bravo celebrating, the team celebrating. These are colorful characters. Sadly, might be the last few years we see people like the Bravos, Pollards in the game. That's that generation now phasing out. But brilliant signs. You reckon Dhoni will retire, or what do you think?
I don't think so, Bora, because he gave us hint. Harsha Bogle asked him in the post-match presentation. He's like, "Oh no, I'm not done yet." So my guess is he wants to retire in front of his home crowd in Chennai. So and
Yeah,
next IPL is in it's only 5-6 months, isn't it? So
yeah.
yeah, so I reckon he'll play one more season. You
Play.
talked about Chennai making the finals and losing finals. I saw it in Dhoni's in the last few overs. There was few wides and no balls bowled by the bowlers, and I
Yeah,
haven't seen him get animated like that because he knows that once it slips from your hands, anything can happen in T20. So I saw
yeah,
him get animated a little bit. He's a very cool, calm character. You can see him throwing his arms around, and there was a bit of action from the big
yeah.
Taleva.
I mean, analyzing the teams, KKR was bandaging as we go along. They had a misfire in middle order, and they forgot found out. They couldn't hide the fact. Andre Russell was a massive factor, but
Yeah,
hamstring injury. I mean, we heard Russ talk about the recovery period, so it's a hard one for them to come back. And Morgan, I know his captaincy was good, but him not scoring was a massive because that order from number 3 downwards hardly scored a run. They were lucky through the semi-finals as well. I mean, there was a string of ducks in that order I've seen. So unfortunate. I mean, hats off to them. They made the finals, but it was a mismatch against that Chennai team. For me, with talking about the Chennai team, for me, I don't know. It's a topic we can have a chat. For me, Mr. IPL is Suresh Raina.
Oh yes.
He is such an impact player because him in that playing group is a massive factor. When he's not playing, when he's in the camp, I think he settles the team well. I mean, the last edition, Chennai didn't qualify, and the first five don't get through the stage. Because he had some personal issues. He didn't participate in the tournament. In social media, you might see him. He's the guy always on to something mischief. I mean, he smashes the cake on players. He's always the ringleader when it comes to pulling off tricks. So he just settles the camp. Every team has a character. It kind of gives the room for the more serious guys like your Dhoni's, Flemings to, know the team's, mood is settled by a player like Suresh Raina. So for me, he's been a massive factor. I think if you ask any of the juniors in that camp, they'll probably say Suresh Raina is the guy I go to, or I feel more comfortable. So similar to how Murali was in the Sri Lankan camp, you know how the juniors, I think he takes them out for dinner and first tour. Is that how it is? Or
Yeah. I mean, he's the first person who'll come up to a newcomer and have a chat, just to make sure that you're welcome into that environment. And he's been doing that for, I reckon, for the last till he retired. He did that, and maybe Suresh Raina's doing the same thing in that dressing room, as you said.
Yeah, but interesting because it's going to be a fresh auction. Things are going to change. We've heard Mumbai Indians might not be able to hold the same squad. Same will apply for Chennai Super Kings. They'll probably lay out more about the auction rules, what happens there. But nonetheless, it's been a strong core team that has been. I mean, you have Chennai Super Kings, Mumbai Indians, the powerhouses in the IPL.
Yeah. It's been really exciting few weeks, and it's funny how world cricket work these days. As soon as one big tournament finish, the next one starts. I mean, we're moving on to T20 World Cup now, and Sri Lanka
Yeah.
has played 4 warm-up games, and we talked about building up to this main event of the World Cup. I think Team Sri Lanka in UAE has ticked almost all the boxes when it comes to preparations, isn't it, Bora?
Yeah, for me, we've been following the warm-up games. I mean, it's good there to see that we've been trialing out different combinations. So I've been keenly following that. I know the games weren't on live scoring, but we get hold of the score sheets through the viewers sharing
Yeah.
links, which was handy just to get our analysis out. A glaring tactical change or that stands out is Avishka slotted into bat at number 4. We're not sure yet who will bat at number 3. I think it's good if we touch more on the batting now because I think we covered the bowling. Number 3 might be between SriLanka at this stage because even Bhanuka was like he was slotted in to bat at number 5. The concern with Bhanuka batting, I think not at number 3, would have mainly been around that early dismissals that he's been getting. So that would have prompted him to go down. Nonetheless, the 3 key players will be Kusal at the top. Vanidu and Dushmanta will lead the bowling charge for us. Avishka has put in a strong performance in the game so far. However, he's yet to prove international T20 or when it's classified as official games. So hopefully he can continue his form though.
Remember, we've been talking about these things since the England tour, right? I mean, settling into a role, it takes time, and we are lucky that we had these few games
Yeah.
playing in those conditions. And we talked a lot about the bowling. I think we have a settled bowling unit now. That gives the freedom to, you can try in many combinations now because you have options. Lahiru Kumara, one guy we didn't mention was Lahiru Kumara, who has come up with back-to-back good performances. So he seems to be firing all cylinders. We might surprise few countries if we make to the main draw, Bora.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, Lahiru Kumar addition has helped spread the workload now. Like in my bowling chart that I put through, Dasun doesn't have to bowl as many overs now. He can maybe sneak in one if he's got a good day, might sneak in 2 or spread amongst other bowlers. So that gives us that confidence. And the good thing is they bowl 140 of them, Dushmanta and Lahiru Kumar. So now a lot of teams are going to struggle that. And hopefully playing against the smaller teams or the qualifying rounds, they might not be used to playing this pace, so it might work in our favor. I think that's the thinking behind him, but he's done a good job in the lead up games that he's played. Charmik looks to be given the new ball. Looks like that's he'll trying to get the ball swing if possible, get a bit of movement early up. But coming back into our batting, the options as it stands, it looks will open with I think Pathum just edged up with performance he put in. Chandi or Asalanka number 3, Avishka, Bhanuka, Dasun, Vanidu, and then again Chami batting there. He might come up a bit because he seems to be the guy in that hitting or batting form out of that 5, 6, 7 slot. That looks like the batting we have. A toss-up might be Bhanuka to bat at number 3 and Charit Asalanka batting at 5. That means Chandimal might not make the 11 or he might open up between the players. Because I think the way they seem to be is they want a bit more solidarity or a bit more steadiness at the top, which is why we've seen the change of Bhanuka batting to number 5 all over. Because if it sets up well, Bhanuka has the license to bat at, able to go at that risk rate where if it comes off, he's batting at 130 to 140 strike rate. If he gets out, that's fine because it means batter comes in and goes hard. That may be the thoughts behind it.
Only worry is if Chandi and Pathum end up batting together, and maybe our run rate might drop down, and that's
that
my
is
only worry.
spot on. I think there is a bit of a worry there, because that means they might, because they generally strike around that 80 to 90% mark. So it means we are not getting the runs, and in the UAE you want runs at the top quick.
Yes.
So because it's a bit harder through the middle.
Yeah,
we'll find out what's happening there. Vida, have you've seen the new thoughts on that?
New playing kids.
Yeah.
Oh, they look good, isn't it? Oh, I love them. I love them.
I think
I love the fact that we have two different kids as well.
Yeah, I think we are one of the only teams to have a home and away kit. So it looks flashy, looks good, looks more energetic. I mean, it's good. Vida, something I'd like to talk about. I mean, this is unknown territory for all of us, playing qualifying cricket in an ICC event. There's a lot of feel for the players, the management, everyone, because as a full playing nation, we've always gotten used to playing event.
We go through, we don't have to do anything. We were guaranteed the spot in the main draw.
Yeah, West Indies, I think they had to qualify in the one day to World Cup last year.
Yeah.
And you still want those players. I mean, Sri Lanka, we've been strong performers in white ball cricket. So this is a bit of an unknown. I mean, there are pressures of having to be up there, but I just feel that we'll pull through, knowing that we've had processes where our players are playing more competitive cricket and get in there. So hopefully we can relax our nerves and kick off and perform to what is expected. Our first is against Namibia. It's a slightly easier fixture than from the three we have. I've just slightly analyzed or gone through the Namibia group. I think their batting strength is, they've got some power hitters in JJ Smith, Craig Williams, and David Wiese. He's the South African player who's turning up to South Africa. And a heavy right-hand batting order. The likes like Wanidu Hasaranga will have an impact. We don't have any left-arm spinners in the squad, so it might mean Wanidu has to, break through that order, as well as we bank on the fast bowling that we have. You would have seen the big statement made by the Netherlands skipper saying Sri Lanka won't go through easily.
The thing is, Bora, sometimes these things get blown up in the media. I mean, maybe, I don't know whether he came out and said that in one sentence,
Yeah.
It's
all juicy in the media, but
yes, but I mean, he's got a point. Like, they made it this far, and they want to make it through to the next stage. So if they will play mind games as well, because as you said, we are in unknown territory. You don't want to mess it up. Like, you don't want to leave it to the last game in Sharjah. So
that's
to be on the safe side, get these 2 wins.
Yeah, get the first 2 games knocked aside, so you don't have to worry. But for some reason, I just feel that last game against Netherlands, if we win it, we'll be fine. But still, Netherlands might need that game. So it might be whoever wins that game scrapes through as the second team. So we'll see what happens. But Sri Lankans generally are not known to be outspoken in the media, and I'm sure these guys, we would have seen and read it, but waiting for him to play. I mean, against Netherlands, we've had some pretty good performance in the past. I mean, we've smacked some big numbers in games that we played against them. So I think it'll come into play. So wish our Sri Lankan team the best for the games that are going to be kicking off. I think Tuesday, isn't it, with that?
Yeah, Tuesday, then Thursday. Yeah.
So we'll be keenly following and supporting them, the boys. Dasun's leading team well. So when we've got Pep of cricket in the mix that we wanted. So
Yeah. He brings that confidence to the squad,
yeah,
isn't it? He brings that all that experience, and
yeah.
him having alongside you give you that 10-15% extra.
The good thing with just to touch up with MJ being in that setup is he'll bring in clear communication. So if players say, "I don't know what my role is,"
Yep.
that won't be any question anymore, because I think he'll
Mm.
mark it out and let them know.
One other good news I saw was Angelo makes himself available for Sri Lanka selections again. He had excused himself. He said, "Don't consider me for selection for the last few months," and stating personal reasons. Tuesday, he has came out and said, "I'm ready to go." So that's really good because we'll be playing some Test cricket in November, and Lanka Premier League is scheduled to play in December as well. So he'll be ready to go in those matches.
Yeah, it's a good addition to see him come back. I mean, he's a great that we need him in the game. Like, talk about T20 cricket, how the game has improved in fielding. He was one of the first guys to bring those outfield catches from,
Oh, yeah.
in the other fielder in play. He was
Mm.
one of the guys who said, look, this can be done. And him stable head in that middle order in Test cricket, even one day cricket, he has a massive impact. Good to see him training, put himself available, so he feels he's fit now to be in that mix. So he's in a right set of mindset as well. He's put his green flag saying, "I'm ready for it."
Yeah, for a moment I was worried that he's going to announce a retirement, Bora, because we
Yeah.
saw a few retirements announcement coming from Isuridana, and for a moment I was worried, but because he's got few years of good cricket in him. After Upul, I think he's the most run scorer in one day cricket. We can have his services for at least 2-3 years to come, Bora. Talking about
Yeah.
T20 World Cup news, I think South Africa missed the trick by leaving Faf du Plessis out of the squad because he announced his retirement from Test cricket, but he made himself available for white ball cricket. They left him out, and looking at the form he's in, and he's already in UAE, I think they missed the trick.
I think they missed a massive trick there, because we've heard in the media or some time back they were pushing to get AB to come and
Yeah.
play out of retirement, when they've got a guy who hasn't retired from T20 cricket, being up there. They've just turned a blind eye on him. And
Mm.
he's one of the only South Africans, or few South Africans, to win a marquee event. South Africa, generally the choking tag they have. Yeah, can't put a reason behind what is it. We can only show of him being missed in that camp. He looks fit. He smashes the ball around opener, argues well for them. So not sure what's going on in that camp.
So Bora, Faf might be going back to South Africa from UAE, but he might come back to Sri Lanka in December to play in the LPL. He has shown his interest. He's put down his name to get picked in the draft. So we might see him. There are a few big names in the list. We got Chris Gale, Andre Russell, David Malan, Du Plessis, Afridi, Shoaib Malik, and
Yeah.
many more. I mean,
Du Plessis, get him into Sri Lanka straight away, give him a good holiday, keep him there. It's good. I think you talk about back-to-back tournaments. Look like soon as we finish the T20 World Cup, a lot of the players going to Sri Lanka, setting up for the LPL to be kicked off. I think Shoaib Malik's name was thrown out there. He's made it into the Pakistan T20 camp now on the back of Sohail Maqsood. Or he was
someone was injured. Yeah.
someone was injured,
Yeah.
so he comes back into that squad, so it'll boost that attack. So I've seen even Chris Lynn's put his name from Australia for the
Oh, yeah.
LPL. So
Watch out.
um, watch out, heavy hitter. He hits a long ball, so it's good. I think a lot of the games are going to be played out in Hambantota. Nonetheless, it's hopefully we'll get more players in the mix. That's good for our domestic players. We've seen our under-19 team playing a series against Pakistan.
Bangladesh.
Uh,
Sorry.
or is it Bangladesh?
Yeah.
Sorry,
A team
Bangladesh.
playing against Pakistan.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Yeah.
we've got a lot of cricket coming up,
I know.
so
Yeah.
it's good for us because we like few years down the line we weren't playing A-team cricket, and now
Mm.
soon as things restrictions have eased, we are playing a lot of cricket.
Yeah.
So that under 19 boys, few of them might be pushing for LPL spots. So they know there's a
Yep.
team building up. Past a lot of the under 19 players who have been marquee good performance also make it into the A team.
Yeah.
I mean the likes of Angelo Mathews, he made it to the A team
Mm.
straight out of under 19.
Mm.
And then the rest was history with what he performed or what he's done. So there is cricket that progresses for the boys in Sri Lanka. It means everyone involved in the game has a lot to do now. It's
Absolutely.
management team, the coaches. It's interesting if we'll see more changes in the coaching setup. You never know whether there'll be specialist T20 coaches coming in to manage
Mm.
the workload. I think time will let us know, especially with what the changes are to be announced. Generally, World Cups are when
Yeah.
teams reset.
Yeah.
There might be some changes.
I think that's a good segue to move on to changes in the coaching setups after World Cups. And before that, just want to mention about LPL, Bora. I mean, we talked about having these tournaments continuous, every year. It's very good that it's happening this year. Last time we didn't really have many big names coming into playing the LPL, but you can see this has created more interest now, and we'll get few more big names in the tournament. That creates more interest, and end of the day, the youngsters and the Sri Lanka cricket will benefit from that. Talking about coaching setup changes, India might have a new coach after the World Cup. Rahul Dravid might be taking over in the home series against New Zealand after the World Cup. And generally, when these changes happen, I mean, the captain and the coach changes, things change around the way you play cricket as well, isn't it?
Yeah, they're spot on. Rahul Dravid front runner because we've seen the transition happening over a period of time. We've seen Dravid was coaching, appointed the coach when they toured Sri Lanka, as well as he was in charge of the under 19. So he's been in key coaching
He
roles
was
through the Indian system.
he was the head coach of National Cricket Academy.
Spot on. There you go.
Yeah.
So he's been he knows the players now. So when he comes into the national setup, he's across who the players are.
Mm.
And rightly so, new combination. Like, I mean, Kohli is letting go of the T20 captaincy. So a new captain comes in, changes the direction they want to take that team for the next no 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
That means the tactics might change, the dynamics of the teams might change because we've got different thinking. The same, I think, in Australia might happen. Justin Langer probably is
Mm.
due for a change, at least in one format. So I think that will happen after the World Cup as well. Sri Lanka might be because the pattern, the way things are going, is it's hard to have overall coach manage in three formats because
Mm.
you need a break in between to analyze and say this is how I want to specialize into the game. We talk about to adjust to formats, the coaches have to adjust quickly as well, and over time there is fatigue building between the players. You need that bit of freshness going in. So I'd like to see that in our at least the T20 coaching setup. You need more specialist
Yeah.
T20 coaches because it's becoming a high intense game that you need more focus, like coaches specializing in that
Yeah.
aspect. The good thing we've done with that is, I think in Sri Lanka, I think a few years back, we've had a level 3 coaching program focused on our senior players there. I think Chamara Silva, Rangana Herat,
Yeah.
Muba Kandambi, those
Mm.
players in this program. So a good investment done by Sri Lanka cricket. Now it's to get that return on investment is to get these players involved
Yeah.
in those profile gigs.
Especially in T20 cricket, Bora, because in the past, especially Asian countries, we used to look at Australia as the benchmark, isn't it? We
Yeah,
we tend to do, or we tend to copy what Aussies are doing. But if we're
yeah,
looking at T20 cricket, I think you'll have to copy what India is doing. Look at IPL. I mean, hardly any of the coaches in the IPL setups are test batsmen or test bowlers. If you look at Ponting or McCallum. Even if you are not a very good T20 player, you'll have a support staff of good T20 players in your coaching setup. So as you said, get these guys in and pick their brains, let them share their knowledge. You mentioned Chamarasilla. He's one of the best players of spin who has played for Sri Lanka. Amount of knowledge you can take from him, you can't match that.
Spot on. And these guys are what the youth can relate to. The guys like Tilna Kandambi,
Yeah.
I mean, as a captain, he was a successful.
Hmm.
He had good leadership qualities. As a coach, he managed to win the LPL, the first edition. Like players communicate with them well. So there are qualities that the modern generation would relate a lot to. And we'd like to see them being involved. I think that's a transition phase that has to happen also within. I mean, we've seen players move the system. We'd like even the coaches now have to move through the system in those fresh thinking or be able to express themselves. That's the change we'd love to see.
Okay, we talked a lot about T20 World Cup. Let's move on to some listener comments. We've been getting good feedback and comments from our listeners. Thank you very much, and keep them coming. You guys give us few ideas and things to talk about in this podcast. We got a comment from Mohan from Victoria about our episode with Russ. Good information players. Keep up the good work. And Anuka Samarakodi send a message saying, loving this podcast, guys. I know Anuka personally, Bora. He may be in Colombo or he might be in Arugambe or somewhere surfing. So wherever you are, thanks for listening, Anuka. Thanks for supporting. We got Leon Gunaseelan on Twitter sending Bora a message saying, looking forward to tune into your take on this game. He's talking about Sri Lanka versus Bangladesh practice game. Bora, do you want to add
Yeah.
something to Leon's comments?
Yeah, we've seen the game analysis. The bowling seems to be similar to what we discussed. Dasun and Charmika has been the slight change that between because Charmika seems to be getting the new ball now. Batting Avishka strong performance. He's standing out. He's settled into that number 4 role so far. He seems to have found the method to bat in that role. So
Yeah.
he'll take confidence from his performance going into the qualifying stages. Charmika,
Yeah.
we've talked about his strong performance he's showing with the bat. I think now we're seeing more results of it. I'm not sure if it's the right word, the finisher's role that we say, but at least he's turning out to be that power hitting fix that we are looking for through the lower stages.
Yeah.
He's pushing his case against even a guy like Vanidu Hasaranga, who's batting for that number 6 position.
Yeah.
So the Charmika's pushing, if we are
Mm.
looking for a guy as that pinch hitter, the person who's trying to push the game, I think Charmika's he's slightly ahead of the rest.
Yeah, what I like about him is Bora, he's someone who wants to get involved in the game all the time.
Yeah.
In the field, when he's bowling or even batting, you can see his mindset is to win, and more he plays this role, more he will get better, I think. So he has some strong performances behind him, which gives him confidence. So which is a good thing for us going into these qualifiers.
To sum it up, again, that T20 game we beat a full member nation. So
Yep.
in a qualifying stage, that's a massive booster for the
Yeah.
team or the camp, settle the nerves out there.
We'll go into one more comment. Aravindan from London. He's talking about your bowling chart. He wants to add something. He's asking, can we get Chamiro to bowl one more in the middle to take wickets? Don't want him to bowl 12 balls where he's being defensive. One more for Kumara, one less for Charmika, and over for DDS. So this was posted a few days back. I mean,
Good thoughts.
absolute good thing about this is look at the amount of names in there. All these bowlers are bowling well. As I always say, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. One thing we can easily knock out is DDS might not get a ball because he might not make the 11.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think Dushmanta's option that Aravindan talks about, it's a good one because if we can use him, we've seen him in the warm-up games. They seem to be using him 2 at the start and 2 at the back end.
yeah.
So if he gets on a roll, he'll be able to break the up. So
Yeah.
run through, get wickets, that's what we want. And again, that we can do because we brought in Lahiru Kumar, who we can now use in the depth. So that combination Arvindan talks about, definitely on, looks like. But it's good. I love discussing with the charts that we put in on. I'm sure there'll be more options that are coming up.
You'll have to come up with more charts now, Bora.
Yeah, was thinking something to do with the batting.
Yeah.
To work through the phases. At the moment, I've got, I mean, the easier fix, I think it's to start from the back end. So
Yeah.
you know your depth overs, who the batsman we want or who you want batting 16th over onwards. But interesting, we'll try to see if we can bring out as a chart for that.
Well, you had your wish. I mean, you wanted this to happen for a long time. You had your wish come true. We had Vanidhu SriLanka batting at number 5 against Bangladesh, but unfortunately, he got run out.
I mean, good opportunity to stamp himself at number 5, but yeah, I wonder if it was a yes, no, sorry, run out.
I think with that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thanks for joining us today. And we would like you to subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, and all the other leading podcast providers. And then you will be able to listen to the latest episode as soon as it is released. And go back and listen to our chat with Russell Jarrett. We talk a lot about fitness, training, and recovery in cricket. You will love it.
Yeah, you can find us on our socials. Send us feedback on srilankancricketpodcast@gmail.com. We'll also add our links on our social pages for the show notes, so you can check out.
And we really appreciate if you can leave us a quick review on Apple Podcasts with generous 5 stars. That will help other cricket-loving listeners like you to find this podcast. We will be back next week with a brand new episode. Until then, enjoy the game.
Cheers, guys.